So good afternoon, welcome to the second edition of the B2B Influence and Marketing chat series. My name is Mariska Kestelo and I'm the founder of Word of Mouth. Today we have a great host, Tim Williams. I'm very happy to finally have the opportunity to speak with him. Unfortunately, of course, this is again not live, but hopefully we have the possibility to see each other soon face to face. Before I will introduce Tim, I would like to go to my second host, my fixed host of today, Jaro, who will explain something about the setup of the session.
Nice to meet you all. My name is Jaro, but my real name is Jarosław Marciuk, so it's quite difficult to say. So all people in Europe know me as Jaro. And so today we'll have a meeting with Tim. For the first 5 minutes, around 5 minutes, we'll have an introduction of Tim, who is a CEO of the Onalytica, but you'll find out more about it. Later, we'll talk about the recent report, his recent report, and also about influencer marketing in B2B sector. And at the end, we'll have some time also to answer all your questions. And so please write down or send to us directly, and we'll make a summary and we'll add some questions to Tim. Also, during the interview, I'll be quoting and sharing with you some interesting data and some interesting figures from the report. So let's go, Mariska.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jaro, for the introduction. Tim, welcome to have you. And first of all, congratulations with your newborn son.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on this interview.
Yes, would you like to say something about yourself before we jump into the questions?
Why not? So yeah, I'm Tim Williams. I'm the CEO of Onalytica. We provide influence marketing software. We focus on advocacy. We love to be able to integrate employee advocacy and influencer advocacy for brands. And really, our mission as a software provider, as a vendor in the space, is to connect brands with influencer communities. We love that development of community around certain topics. We focus on B2B globally, and yeah, we've been in the space for over 10 years now, and we absolutely love it. It's a thrilling place to be.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really happy that we have the ability to speak. First, the first question I would like to discuss with you is about the report that you've done, the current state and future of B2B influencer marketing, but especially from an influencer perspective. Can you share first of all, why you have done this report? Because it's quite a lot of work to set up this report, to send out the questionnaires, to find the right people to reply. Can you, before we dive into the outcome of the report, can you share why have you done this, set up this report?
Sure. So we always love carrying out research. It just enables us to build so many relationships within the industry, and you find out so many wonderful things about the state of the industry. We have previously done a state of the industry report for B2B marketing around marketers and communications professionals. And since Top Rank Marketing did a great report a couple of months back on that, we thought, well, why don't we ask the influencers? Because the influencers are the marketing gold that brands are leveraging to get their messages out there. And the industry is maturing, as you very well know. There's a wonderful successes. There's also mixed results within the industry as the industry is evolving and maturing. So part of the success is how brands connect with the influencers, and the influencers have strong opinions about how they should be reached out to, how they want to work with brand, whether their opinion gets listened to as part of the brief, and how they work on an ongoing basis, and how the payment works, and all of the sort of administrative and sort of transaction part of the process matter as well. So we just thought, to be able to advance the industry, we can deliver most value by showing brands what influencers really care about and how they want to best show up, because then you've got both the brands and then the influencers coming together to achieve what the best results are going forward.
put myself on mute. So yeah, it was really interesting also that you really want to focus on that, say, on the influencers part, which I think is really, really important also to bring influencer marketing, I would say, to the next level. Can you share three, say, important outcomes and three remarkable outcomes that you said, okay, this is perhaps something that we already knew, but it confirms, or something that really would surprise you with the outcome of the report? Can you say three important outcomes and three perhaps remarkable or strange things that came out of the report that was totally new for you and your team?
Sure. I think one thing to always keep in mind is that the always on mentality rather than one-off campaigns. So there's a stat in there that 89% of influencers who work for brands on a retainer basis deem their campaigns to be very successful. So obviously the influencers, when brands invest in them on a longer term basis, they give a lot more to brands. And so that was very, it was what we already believed, but it was just really, really strong to come through from the influencer research report. The other thing that was interesting is the quality of outreach and research. There's still a lot of brands that are not doing their research and just treating influencers like promotional mouthpieces and saying, can you amplify this piece of content? Or I know you're influential in this area. Could you share this report? And that's really something that we're trying to stamp out as the industry. So, so 93% of influencers who think brands do a lot of research rate their outreach as good or very good. So as a brand, you need to put in the effort to get to know someone before asking them to do a favor or trying to build a relationship as part of a paid engagement. So that was really interesting. The other part was looking at influence marketing as a collaborative process. So it's not a brief that brands just hand to the influencers and influencers accept or not. It's about helping influencers to shape the brief and relaxing a bit of control as a brand to be able to integrate influencers' beliefs and ideas on how you can create the most inspiring content for your target audience.
Sorry to interrupt, but is it also,
I think those were the three interesting points.
Yeah, is it also not, because a lot of people see influencers as not as humans, is this not also about creating a human relationship between the influencer and the brand, and about also the mutual respect and the mutual interest and expertise? Because I see there is a huge gap between what the brand wants and what the influencer wants. And despite it, we also send out a brief. It's you see there's still a huge gap to bridge between the influencers
Exactly.
and the brands. And I think if brands would approach influencers more in a human way, if they would work with employees, I think there is, from my perspective, I think there is still a lot of work to do.
Yes, I think you're spot on. I think the human-centered approach goes a long way. And I think that when you're in big organizations and you're in the marketing department and you have strict targets to hit, and you're seeing influencers like a paid media opportunity, then obviously the mindset is wrong. And that's one of the things I think is interesting going to the trends of influence marketing, that I see that the early adoption phase is over. I know a lot of people that have influence marketing, their job title, they have global roles, and they've honed their industry and their skills extremely well, and they're working with influencers. But now this approach has become mainstream. There are a lot of people that have never done this before, that it might be 5% of their roles, and they don't feel that they have the time to research influencers or to and maybe the human approach gets lost a bit because they find it very time consuming to manage these influence relationships. So I think we're at that tipping point where it becomes a mainstream tactic, and organizations will then recruit differently, and the job roles in the future, a marketing director would have influence marketing maybe as 25% of their remit. So I think it's just as a result of the evolution of the industry, but I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and also that it's what is also very interesting what you say is first, it's a very time-consuming process, and that marketeers not always have the time to do that research and just sending out the brief. Where I think that if you have that a connection and relationship with influencers, you can go much further. And also, what I really like what you said, the early adaptation phase is over. Yeah, I hope that B2B influencer marketing will become more mature in the upcoming years, and I would love to have your vision on that. But we'll come there back later. Anything else that you would like to share about the outcome of the report that you have done, or even from also from your colleagues, because I know also this is of course a team effort that you have done. There were quite a lot of people who have worked on the report. Any other outcomes that you would like to share from the report?
Yeah, sure. And first of all, I should say that Alicia Russell, our VP for Global Marketing, she was behind the influencer research report, assisted by Alistair Wheat, who helped out with a lot of the influence relations, and Joe Fields as well in the team. So all credit to them for getting the report out. I think the one of the other interesting things is that the influencers' audience size is becoming less and less important. I think a lot of brands have chased the same influencers who have maybe 150, 200,000 followers in the B2B world. And when you have 50 brands chasing after the same 30 people in tech, for example, that bubble is always going to burst. And so I think a lot of the more savvy marketers are looking for people with expertise, and they're looking for industry experts that don't call themselves influencers. So I think that how we describe influencers is really, really important. At Onalytica, we talk about professional influencers or social media amplifiers as those people that do it for a living, but we also talk about industry experts, industry key opinion leaders, content creators, independent analysts, different type of people that are influential experts, but they're just not describing themselves as influencers. And I think that's a really important trend.
Really important one where you say the word influencer, because we also have a hate-love relationship with the word influencer, if I can say it. But if I don't mention that a word influencer marketing, then people don't understand what I do. So I mention it for people to give them a direction. But still, the word, say, industry expert, content creator, thought leader, I think we still have to come up with a name which resonates with the job that they do, because influencer, everyone is an influencer if you have a social media
exactly
or not. So I think we need to be careful, perhaps even go away from the word influencer marketing and be on a B2B level. I mean, just to
exactly, couldn't agree more. And how we feel that as Onalytica, as a technology vendor in the space, we feel we have a responsibility to help that evolution. So we've got the persona classification, like a content creator or an independent analyst, but then there's also the roles. They could be an academic researcher, or they could be a data scientist, they could be a developer, they could be an entrepreneur. And then they've got location, they've got like quantitative data, qualitative data, and that all forms part of a person, of who they are. The category is influencers, but we don't like the word influencer by itself.
Not at all.
But it's useful to have a term for the industry that everyone references. We also call an influencer as an internal influencer. It could be an employee, a brand employee. So they're just people, but they are influential experts for us. So that's probably our best generic term for all the people that we hold in our database.
Yeah, indeed. But I think, like you said, I also feel that it's a duty and our role and our responsibility to also to get more recognition for influencers in general, and again, together with that human approach, to get more awareness for what is actually B2B influencer marketing. Because a lot of people, if I speak with clients, it was especially in the beginning, I notice now that perception of influencers luckily is changing, but a lot of people don't see them as humans. They just want to see them as a sort of selling machine. and they don't always see the long-term perspective. Luckily, that has changed also, I think, also with the pandemic. But also before, I saw a change of perception in general for influencers. So I'm very
Exactly.
happy.
Well, I think it's testament to some of the work that you do at Word of Mice as well. I mean, you're very vocal about that, and I think there's a community of B2B influencer marketing practitioners that are helping change this.
Yes.
So I think it'll take a couple of years, but I think we're well on the way.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm also very positive about, say, but we still have, say, long steps to go. And therefore, it's interesting also to share your vision about the future of B2B influencer marketing, because and also talking about the impact of B2B influencer marketing, because I think still a lot of people underestimate what you can get out of a campaign on a B2B on a B2B level. So can you share some insights or steps from the report or outside the report in general, the impact of B2B influencer marketing? Because I think that's a huge underestimated value or part of the campaign.
Sure. So from working with lots of global enterprise brands, the results that we see from influence marketing is, if we look at brand awareness first and then demand generation as the main two goals, we see up to 30 times awareness and engagement on social content when influencers have generated the content versus brand generated content. So we see a massive increase in awareness engagement. We also qualitatively see an increase in the quality of content, and they inspire conversations. There's a very different flavor to the content. So that's on the awareness engagement front. On the demand generation of, say, if you have a webinar with an external influencer, then we're seeing up to 5 times demand generation. So 5 times, generation of leads, for example. Sometimes it's 50% more, sometimes it's twice as much, 3 times, but it's up to 5 times that we see with the external influencer voice. So wonderful results, compared to the benchmarks that the brands have. And obviously there's lots of factors in determining how successful those particular campaigns are.
Yes, indeed. But I think still a lot of people underestimate what you can, say, the impact of a B2B influencer marketing campaign. Getting them after you've done the report, what is your personal, also seeing, of course, the pandemic, which had a huge impact on our personal and professional lives. Has your vision changed, or your about B2B influencer marketing for the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. From our research, it showed that the influencers are saying that they've got the same amount of work or more. A few of them who were speaking at lots of events obviously had to adapt their offering very, very quickly. And that was important. So I know people that have really upskilled themselves on the lighting, on the recording, on being MC at events, and people like Brian Fanzo, for example, have made a business out of showing their journey and how they've adapted, and they've had to make some big changes. But overall, the influencer work has increased. I mean, the brands have no physical events, no way in which they can network or drive leads. They have, everything is digital selling. And, this is, I think, just accelerated the trend that we were already seeing. So our strategy at Onalytica hasn't changed. I think we've just been, from a personal strategy, we've just been working more with tech firms because they were the ones that were trying to capitalize on this opportunity, whereas maybe some other firms in travel or hospitality or something like that were really just trying to survive as businesses. So they just shut down a lot of spending around advertising and marketing. So I think that they will come back, but I think in the B2B areas of tech, finance, healthcare, the areas that are really booming and haven't really seen much of a hit in terms of their revenues, it's been increasing, if anything.
Okay, well, interesting to see. Yeah, of course, we're coming from the hospitality, the meetings and events industry. We see that the industry, of course, has been hugely hit And 2021 is not looking, say, very, very bright, unfortunately, for the future, or say for next year. Despite that, our strategy has slightly changed. We see there's a huge support, and I'm focusing also on social media. But despite there is still a demand for B2B influencer marketing, because, like you said, we are the ones who are creating the events, and you don't have the possibility to meet or to have that face-to-face interactions with your clients. So therefore, I think B2B influencer marketing is a great way to do webinars, to do interviews, podcasts, online panel discussions, online events. I mean, or Instagram stories, LinkedIn Live. We have so many opportunities to stay in touch with our audience, and that using influencers, I think it's only a great value. And I think some ways the pandemic has pushed that forward, some companies to think perhaps differently than they would have thought before. So I see there also a positive change for the future for B2B.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And a lot of the marquee events that didn't happen or just couldn't deliver the same results, I think we are seeing virtual content series with influencers being something like a thought leadership play, which might be across 2 or 3 months, where they have 10 different video series with one influencer per video series, or using the same influencer for multiple ones, and integrating their subject matter experts internally as a good way of driving the attention and awareness and just creating really good content.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to say already the last question, which is, I think, also an important topic: data, which is something I can say. I think either the influencers and the agencies sometimes are struggling with to get the right data, because what the client wants and what the influencer can offer is not always, say, on the same level. We think that data still plays a huge underestimated role in many industries. How do you think that we can improve the role of data, perhaps also in combination with the current situation with the pandemic?
Yeah, well, I mean, I run a data and analytics firm, so data is at the heart of everything that we do. I think it's a really difficult and challenging area for marketers, because marketers and communications professionals are really struggle with measurement, and I think there's a number of different ways to look at this. I think it's if we start with the influencers need to be able to measure their impact on things that brands care about. So if you have a few posts and you get 50 likes or 60 likes, then they need to translate that into something that the brand can make a business case for internally. So the influencers need to improve their own measurement, and they also need to do a better job at showing how well they perform compared to their competitors that could be other influencers in the community that people could choose to work with. So we're trying to help the influencers measure their impact on LinkedIn and Twitter, to take 2 channels, but also try to have some proxy for offline influence as well, which is really difficult, but there are some solutions there. So I think that's how the influencers can understand their own value and bring that as their kind of profile showcase or media kit. Then there's having a passion for ensuring that they deliver for the brand. So once they've created the content, if that's what the brief is, to ask whether the brand is happy that they've hit their targets from working with them. I think the feedback from brands is that not many influencers ask those questions, and to be able to make sure they deliver that return, and the ones that do stand out. So I think that's from the influencer's standpoint. I think from the marketer's standpoint, then they need to have a benchmark to understand how well they're doing, on day one, and what good looks like, and then to be able to measure the uplift when they're working with influencers, so they can start translating that into what senior management really care about. And quite often the benchmark is not done before. So there's some really good results, but the senior management don't really know what good looks like. And it can't just be social media metrics. So I think the benchmark is important. I think then be able to get influencer marketing onto the CMO scorecard, so there's one metric that can really define the value of influence marketing, whether that's reach, engagement, brand share of voice, a combination of those, like an influencer index. I think that needs a lot of thought. And I suppose my last point on measurement is that it's really important to connect all of the metrics together. I know that Christopher Penn talks a lot about this. He's an analytics expert in the US that I respect hugely in this domain. And I think he's right that you need to connect a number of metrics together. So you have the initial metrics on social media to show how well the content might have landed, but then you need to connect the metrics. It could be referral site traffic, it could be leads, it could be then the conversion of those compared to other demand gen tactics that you have. And to be able to integrate this as a strategy, it has to be connected to the other ways in which you measure things. So I think that area has a long way to go. I think it's getting better, but the more results influence marketing gets, the more visibility it'll get on senior management, the more that the spotlight will shine upon it, the more the return on the campaigns will be asked for by people's managers, and the more measurement will improve as a result of those questions. So I think it'll just take the next kind of year to really enable data and analytics to be at the forefront of this. And yeah, I am very passionate about data and analytics, and I think there's multiple different angles. So the people that do influence marketing are not necessarily measurement specialists, and so I think it's a really challenging area.
Yeah, because that's what I want to say, because we sometimes also struggle that industry experts, as we talk about, are excellent in their job and they can create excellent content, but they're not always good in then delivering that data. And also they said, yeah, but I've done a great job. I've, for example, I have many subscriptions for a questionnaire or for a webinar. Yes, but who are those persons, for example, signed up? So it's also for us sometimes a challenge to push the industry experts to the next level and say, okay, but we need to prove the client is paying for you, so we need to prove that that return on investment, what is important for the brand. So, and also for the brand, sometimes for other perspective, it's not always easy that we get. So if we ask, where do you want to go? When are you satisfied with the outcome? Can you really define it? There also are challenges, because yeah, but what are referral points, for example? Where can we start? So we see there is still also on that point, I would say, bridge the gap. Some brands or companies are way ahead than, of course, others, and also within the industry experts, some people are more better with data. But I think we still say we're trying to push our community and of industry experts also to put data on the forefront and to put it also in our brief. So, for example, how can you prove the return on investment of the campaign? So we also added already in the brief, so we know that we ask for the data as soon as, of course.
But I think it's great just asking for that and trying to connect it up. I think that's a great thing to ask, and a lot of people miss it out. I guess it depends. If the influencers are getting a ton of business from loads of brands, then the pressure is not on them to always measure those results. If the business is drying up and they need to prove more of their impact, then it'll be the first thing that they do. So I think it'll be a natural shakeout of the industry. But if you don't measure the results, if your audience is not what the brand's looking for, you'll get found out at some point. It's not just about having 100 likes from a random community. It's got to drive something valuable for the brand. So yeah, maybe there's been some social media amplifiers, if you can call some people out there, that have pushed around content on the internet, but not too much more.
Yeah.
And I think brands are looking beyond that now.
Yes, that's true. Because I think now also people are now also being pushed. If we see from our industry, and we used to be a live business and face to face, we're pushed now more into the digital aspect. So I think digital marketing in general, influencer marketing, is now much more on the agenda than ever before. I just want to go to Jaro because we covered exactly 30 minutes of the interview. I think we have some questions.
Yes, and we'll share them now. So the first question is, which I received directly for Tim, is: do you consider yourself as influencer?
Huh. Well, since we said that everyone's an influencer, then yes, but I don't. I asked people. I went down the South Bank in London and I asked some random people that walked past. I said, "What is your definition of an influencer?" And they said, "People with hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram or something like that." And so, obviously, the definition of an influencer is very ambiguous. We define an influencer as, because obviously there are journalists, there are politicians, there are analysts. Those are the kind of traditional forms of PR or marketing. So I suppose when people are talking about influencers, they're talking about non-traditional people who are delivering an impact on a target audience or changing a behavior or helping them make a decision in your target audience. So that's our definition. And of course, like, I can influence certain people, but I would not expect a brand to hire me as an influencer unless they're trying to get into the influence marketing space, of which I would hope to be more influential there.
Okay. And here is another question we received via email before. So the question is, one second. Okay. What would be, sorry, that's the one. What would be your piece of advice for a person who is well known within the industry but does not have social media accounts? It was not necessary in the normal times. I have just started using LinkedIn and Twitter. Is it too late for me, or do I still have a chance to catch up and influence online my audience?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. We provide advice to a lot of employees that feel like this because they're trying to develop their own brand as well. And a lot of senior execs are influential people, but not on social media. So I think it's important to know what your passion areas and what your focus and what your routine would be on social media. You could post once a day when you have a coffee break or something like that. So you've got to find your routine, and then you've got to find the topical communities that you want to be influential within. And if you start following the top influencers in those communities and following their content and adding value to their content and starting a conversation, you can quite quickly build up an influential account. And so it doesn't take years and years. You can get the benefits from this in 3 months if you're strategic about it, but you've got to put a bit of effort in. So I don't think it's late or like too late for people, but I think it's important to not just post random content onto social media and expect to get lots of engagement, because it just doesn't work like that. Thankfully, there are a lot of people who are influential already that you can co-create content with them, and then you can gain followers from their audience that are very relevant. So I think those are the few areas where you can accelerate your influence, from a standing start.
So it's never too late.
Never too late.
So how would be your piece of advice for a person who is known in the industry, but he say, which platform should I choose? Whether, no, shouldn't be a TikTok. We know that not, right? Probably. But would you choose a LinkedIn or Twitter or any other?
Well, it depends upon the context, of course. In B2B, we analyze platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, podcasts, YouTube, Forbes channels. That's really where we focus on. Seeing whether Instagram stories or Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, what impact they're going to have on B2B. Who knows, in 10 years time, in 2 years time, we obviously need to see how the marketplace evolves. It just depends on where your audience is showing up. What I think is an important point, though, is you can create video content. We're creating video content here. You're going to be repurposing this, I think, into a podcast, into blog posts. And so the ability to create quality video content and then repurpose it across different channels in different formats is absolutely vital. So you don't have to obsess over the over the channel, but equally you don't want to post something on 10 different channels because that's probably going to be more of a diluted strategy.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, well, I think for our industry, I think LinkedIn is still the place to go because I think it's the platform also where you have the most opportunities. But indeed, it's part of your. I think it's the big word is consistency within social media. I think, like you said, you need to be part of your strategy. You need to be part of your weekly routine. I don't say you have to post every day on LinkedIn, but at least check it every day if people comment on your posts or engage with others or say if people have a new job, congratulations. Because I think that's also something a lot of people underestimate. It's not just only sending, but it's also engaging with other people.
Exactly, it's a networking platform, and if you don't show up, on a multiple times a week, then yeah, you're just broadcasting to an audience.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
So I think especially now when someone starts social media, because I remember when I started Instagram 10 years ago, it was very simple. We were just shooting photos, square photo, publishing in the filter. That's it. That was it. And it grew organically. And today, when you want to start, for example, Instagram, you have stories, you have reels now. So your account doesn't grow so organically like before. You need to pay for your ads. So the world is totally different now.
Absolutely.
And so, would you advise some people rather than focusing on the text, so they could just focus what takes them at least not so much time, so they could focus on video or podcast, so they don't have to write long blog posts, for example. Would you see it as a good approach?
Well, I think when we speak to influencers, actually what they love to do is they love to write blogs and articles. A lot of them love writing. And I suppose it just depends who the audience is. If they're consumers that want snackable images and videos, if you're looking at the travel industry or leisure industry, I think that probably the video and images would be the way to go. When you're looking at tech, then there's still blog posts, articles. They're in massive demand, and the influencers love writing the content. Not necessarily in long white paper formats, because I think that they're evolving, and there's a modern approach to a white paper. But I just think it depends upon the industry. It depends upon the audience. But I think blog posts and email marketing and traditional forms of communication are extremely effective in B2B marketing still, if you get them right.
Okay.
Yeah, I
We
think.
have also another question received recently. Can you share with us any B2B influencer campaign you have recently noticed, probably in the UK market, or took part in? Maybe you took part in some campaign as you.
Yeah, well, we have a number of clients that run successful campaigns. I'm just trying to think about which ones I can talk about, because of course, like I would have to ask their permission to share the actual results.
We can
I,
send it in the question, and then we can, if you don't know, say someone they can share, we can also send a link towards a report or a blog post that's written about, or example of a post that we can add in a thank you mail to the people.
Yeah, I think we work with a lot of global tech clients, and we've seen with some of their marquee events that 30% of the social traffic has been driven by influencers on marquee event. It could be IBM Think, for example, and I think that that's a great result to see that influencers showing up, like really driving the mind share in the industry and the awareness around events like that. So I wouldn't pick any one particular brand out. That's just an example, but we're just saying the results show up around your virtual events, like in a big way. And there's other ones where brands are just starting off doing LinkedIn lives with a subject matter expert and an external influencer, and we see some really great engagement from that. But they're just starting out on their journey, running a pilot program, and then just learning from the results and scaling up there. So hopefully that's given you enough information.
Yeah, I think definitely, but I think we also can find more information on your website. And then I think I would like, one of the last questions was, I would like also to have your vision on TikTok, because, well, and we also created an account. We haven't been active on it, but you just blocked our domain. How do you see TikTok? What is, well, your vision? How do you see TikTok evolving for B2B influencers? Do you think it will be a potential way to engage with people or with potential clients?
You know what? Um, this is obviously just a very personal opinion. I'm trying to run a business focusing on all the channels that clients are asking about,
Yeah.
and people mention TikTok, but they mention it in a jokey way, like they did Snapchat. And I go to B2B social media marketing conferences, and actually they aren't just B2B. They're the social media marketing conferences that happen in San Diego and Content Marketing World and all of those conferences, and people joke around about TikTok, but until people are actually wanting to put budget behind it, then I don't invest too much time in actually thinking about it from a business standpoint. I think that uh, I think that anything which is video based, which can convey the message, is going to be really valuable. And so I think that maybe in a couple of years we'll see more campaign. I'm starting to see people talk about Instagram stories for B2B, but maybe in like 0.5% of cases. It's really not something that anyone is putting some real budget behind that we've heard about. So at the moment I'm just staying focused, but I expect in 2022 it'll be part of a B2B campaign.
Okay, interesting to hear your vision, because we have an intern who's going to do research also about TikTok, and actually we do use Instagram stories for our B2B influencer marketing campaigns.
Yeah, so that's where I've seen it overlap a bit. But I mean, I still come back to the fact that a lot of people are trying to walk before they can run, and I mean, obviously, if they worked with you, then you've got the expertise to be able to potentially roll out some content like that. A lot of people that are just trying to get a blog post signed off or a video created to be able to have multiple different channels is a step too far at the moment. So when it becomes more mainstream, then I think within employee advocacy, this could show up in a lot of cases.
Okay, great.
And there's also another question from the technical point of view. Have you noticed that some of the platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, or they don't want to share the data, so they're not so open just before, so they want to close access to the third-party companies who analyze data? Have you noticed?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because we're a third-party vendor that wants to analyze platforms like that. So we have to crowdsource, and we've got a semi-automated way of analyzing LinkedIn, which is just through a significant investment that we've had to make because they're not open. But we're obviously crowdsourcing publicly available information, and we're respecting the GDPR rules, and but it's a big challenge. Twitter is more open, that's why it's easier to get information. Facebook is all anonymized and very, very private. So yeah, it's a big challenge, and that's why we've focused on B2B to make sure we get the channels right for B2B. Companies that are trying to monitor this across every single social media platform, I think, are being hit by all the changing rules. When Instagram dropped their API feed, a number of businesses went bust that were in the influence marketing space. There's also some slightly potentially illegal ways in which some companies are getting Instagram data, we believe. We haven't gone down that route, but I think it's a threat to the industry. And Facebook and Instagram, I think, will try and suppress all of that data because they want to build products themselves and obviously earn money out of the influencers, advertising and promotional content. So yeah, I think it's a real danger, especially to the B2B industry.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's already 45 minutes, for this interview. So thank you so much, Tim, for your time, and I wish you all the best and good luck with the newborn. And thank you so much, Jaro, for joining us. and we will announce when this content will be converted into a podcast, so you can listen to it again and live. And next Thursday we will have again an interesting guest, always Thursday at 1 p.m. CST time. We have another guest talking about B2B influence and marketing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mariska. Thank you, Jared. Really enjoyed it.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
See you.
Speak soon.